Guys, I'm really digging this motor. This thing cruises on the highway effortlessly, and this is only a 5.3 in a four-door JK. That's pretty heavy. So as you can see, I'm going about 60. If I want to go 70, now I'm accelerating. I'm just touching the throttle, and look, it did not downshift. Still not downshifting. 75, no downshifting, effortless, and I just barely touched the throttle. This engine is so smooth, it's like driving an Escalade. It's got so much torque, it's like driving a larger motor. It's running on regular gas, and it's getting fantastic gas mileage. So I really think this is going to be the engine of choice for your JK. Stay tuned. We're going to have 2 or 3 more Gen 5 builds here. It's just an incredible engine. Alright, so we just came off the mountain. Let me show you how easy this thing gets up to speed. That's just touching it. There's 45. That's the speed limit. This is the first Gen 5 5.3 we've had in the road, and I will say that it runs really good. It's got a lot of mid-range torque, a lot of torque off the bottom, which has been an issue with the Gen 4 5.3. Gen 4 5.3 is a great motor, but for the larger, heavier JKs, the 6.0 makes a better choice. Now with the Gen 5 5.3 having direct injection and CVVT, it looks like it may be a good substitute for the 6.0 and be compliant in places like California where the 6.0 is not. My initial impressions are it drives very nice, very smooth. It's got a lot of bottom and mid-range torque, and I'll tell you, a lot of guys want 300, 400, 500 horsepower, and when you start getting up there and you put, let's say, a cam on a 6.2, you're getting more horsepower on the top end range, but you're losing torque in the bottom. So that engine may not come on until 3,000 RPM. What we're finding with these Gen 5 engines is they come on right off idle. You've got maximum torque available to you at very low RPM, and that's what you want in a heavy JK. I've had customers complain, even with 500 horsepower engines, that they don't have enough grunt on the bottom, but they're monsters on top, and that's the nature of the beast. So these engines are all about mid-range torque and bottom-end torque, and that makes them a perfect engine for the JK, in my opinion. Now I'm going to drive it up the mountain tomorrow, and we'll see how it does on the grades with the AC on and all that. But if it pulls the grades good and stays in high gear, I think this is going to become the engine of choice to swap into a JK when you don't need the power of a 6.2. And the 6.2 Gen 5 engine's a lot of power. The few that we've done, the customers have remarked to me that they were surprised how much power they had, and a couple even said they would have been happy with a 5.3. Not that they're not happy with the 6.2, it just has more power than they thought it would have. I would say the 6.2 Gen 5 L86 is similar in power to an LS3 430, but has so much more bottom end torque that it moves down the road better, more effortlessly in a heavy JK. I still think the LS3 is my favorite engine overall, but these Gen 5s are really growing on me, especially now with the new 8-speed. We're testing some Gen 5s with tall gears and the 8-speed. I think we're going to see some pretty good mileage results, and these engines may just end up being the ultimate engine swap for the JK. If we can get in the high teens with a, let's say, a 4-door JK with 35s and minimal armor, that's doing really good. We already had a 6.2 JK with 37s get 17.8 on a trip to Arizona and back, and that was staying between 65 and 70. So that's very promising. That was with an 8-speed. We're driving a 5.3 with a 6-speed right now, but they also offer the 8-speed and the 5.3. 5.3s also have air fuel management, 4-cylinder mode, and the 4-cylinder mode works pretty good in these. It's not very invasive. It doesn't, I mean, you know it's in 4-cylinder mode. You can hear it, you can feel it, but it's not too bad. And if it does return significantly better mileage, then I think it's worth activating. And if it doesn't, you can always turn it off. I feel that the technology that these Gen 5 motors have is starting to offer some real advantages over the other options out there. And I'm not just talking about other LSs. I'm talking about superchargers and Hemis and diesels, whatever else you want to look at. These Gen 5s are starting to cross the barrier of other technologies. Direct injection is becoming standard here in America, but for many years it was European. And along with the direct injection and combustion chamber technology, we're getting high compression. By putting high compression in an engine like this 5.3, we're essentially putting out more cylinder pressure, which means more power and more torque. At the same time, we have full control of the cam now, so we can put the cam wherever we want it for maximum efficiency. So we're seeing some real advantages with these Gen 5 engines in technology that do make them a better choice, in my opinion, over other options like Hemis, superchargers, and possibly even diesels. And I think there's a fine line between the efficient, high-tech gas engines and diesels now. If you look at the diesels getting choked down with emissions and after exhaust treatments and filters and all that, and you look at the gas motors getting more and more efficient, the dividing line is becoming obscure. So if we were to get a diesel that got 25 miles to the gallon and a gas motor that got 23 miles to the gallon, there's not a whole lot of difference there, especially when you consider you have to spend a lot more money for a diesel, and diesel fuel is not as available, and the gas motor is most likely going to have a lot more horsepower. So the fact that the diesels are being choked down and the gas motors are getting better are narrowing that gap between the diesel and the gas engine, in my opinion. We are working on a diesel swap. There are legitimate reasons to run a diesel, but I can tell you that these Gen 5 motors have a little bit of diesel running in them. The high compression, when you start it, you can almost hear and feel a diesel-like sound. And with the direct injection, of course it's an ignition system, but we're taking the gas motor and we're pushing it up into the diesel technology of the higher compression. So I really think these Gen 5s are going to end up being the standard in a JK. The 8-speed is going to be prominent, I believe, in the next few years. When I first drove the 8-speed, it didn't seem to be that much different than the 6L80, and I still think the 6L80 is an excellent transmission. I'm driving a 6L80 right now. We are doing some testing with the 8-speed where we're running tall gears, but remember, we have a 4.6 low and a 0.6 overdrive in the 8-speed, which gives us a very diverse gear range. So we can run those tall gears, get away with it, launch hard with a heavy JK, and then get on the highway and really enjoy the low RPM cruising. So you can't get over physics, and that means that it takes X amount of energy to move X amount of weight. And these engines can only get so efficient. The law of diminishing returns is kicking in right now. The Gen 4 motors were pretty darn good. The Gen 3 motors were good. The small and big blocks were okay, but there was a lot of improvement to be had on those. So these Gen 5 motors are an incremental improvement over the Gen 4, but I think we're going to see the gap widen a little bit as GM opens them up. One of my guys, Mitch, has been opening up the tunes on these, and there's a lot of power available. So I think GM is going conservative on these engines right now, given the compression ratio and the potential that they have. And it's going to be interesting to see in the next couple of years what these Gen 5 motors offer. But I really think that right now the 5.3 and the 6.2 Gen 5 motors, I've driven them both, are going to offer the JK the best engine change option out there. And I've driven most everything else that's out there.